What you want to know?
Where were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
Where were you on the Pearl Harbor Day?
What?
Where were you on Pearl Harbor Day?
When was I what?
Where were you on Pearl Harbor Day?
On Pearl Harbor Day. Where was I? Seagrove, North Carolina.
And
On
you,
Pearl
what were
Harbor
you
Day,
doing?
I was in Seagrove, North Carolina. I was a high school teacher, like your daddy is, and I'd been. Well, it would happen early Saturday morning, but I mean on Sunday. By the time back then, you didn't have television. You got news by the radio. That was before television was invented. And on Pearl Harbor Day, that was December the 7th, 1941. And I was in Seagrove, North Carolina, and I was walked over to the high school, and had been in fooling around over the high school, and I was walking back home from the high school, and it was Sunday afternoon by the time I was listening to I had a little portable radio that I had in my hand, and I was listening to the news on Sunday afternoon, and I was walking back to the house when they announced over the radio that Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor.
Okay, let me tell you where I was. I was 10.
That's where I was in Pearl Harbor.
Okay, I was 10 years old, and my mother and daddy and my aunt and uncle and I were out riding around, and my uncle was driving, and he had the car radio on, and he heard the news that Pearl Harbor had been bombed by the Japanese. So we immediately went home, and my daddy turned on our floor model Philco radio to get the news that we never listened to except when the black boxer was Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Louis.
Yes.
When Joe Louis was boxing, Daddy would listen to that. But anyway, he turned the radio on, and we all hovered around the radio to hear as much as we could about it. And I didn't quite understand why they were all so excited, because I didn't really.
So you didn't know.
I was 10 years old.
So you didn't know to be afraid or what that meant.
I didn't understand. I didn't know why they were all so upset.
Right.
I didn't know what it meant.
Granddad, how old were you?
In 41, you were.
19. How old
You
was
were
I?
20.
In 1941, on December the 7th, 1941, I was 19 years old. On the 15th of December, I turned 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next question, Lou?
Next question is, what do you remember about World War II?
What do you remember about the war?
What do I remember about it?
Did you participate in the war?
They had a draft then, don't you? When the next day, the president went to Congress and they declared war. And back then, they had a draft. They had to create an army right quick, so they had a draft. Everybody, all men had to. All men. That's it.
Had to go register. Had to go register.
Was it 20 years old? Or
I thought it was 18. I don't.
20?
I thought it was 18. I don't know really.
I think it was. Well, I don't remember 18 or 20. Anyway, all the men had to register. Everybody had to go. They set up registrations, and they would publish it, and whenever you became 18 or 19, you had to go register, fill out a questionnaire, where you lived, and all that sort of stuff, and register. And then they started drafting. The government started to say, we need so many people, we have to train them. So then you were called up. The government had to go to an army base and turn yourself in and be trained to be a soldier. That was the draft then. They drafted people to be.
If you were physically
and sometimes you either went in the Navy or the Army. And they didn't have much of an Air Force then. They had an Army Air Corps, just the Army and the Navy. And then you had an Army Air Corps. And anyway, they said, well, I had a college degree. I was a teacher. So all I had to do was hurry down to, they were giving everybody that could do most anything a job. And I went down there in May to Camp Lejeune, went to what they call the Labor Board, and checked in, find out, see if they had a job I could do. And so since I had a college education, they made me in charge of keeping the payroll of a crew there in Jacksonville. And the ironic thing about it was, I'd gone to college 4 years to learn how to teach school. When I got that down there, they hired me to do a job that I had no training for.
Right.
Paid me 4 times as much money for it.
Wow.
When I was down there.
Grandmother, did you have any relatives that joined the Army or joined?
Did I what?
I asked Grandmother if she had any relatives.
No, well, my cousin John joined the Navy. I don't know exactly when. My daddy, there were a lot of the men in my little town who were drafted, but Daddy was upset because he was classified 4F and he couldn't go.
Okay.
But see, everybody was wholehearted. They had come and attacked our company.
Right.
So we started immediately building the military up, drafting people.
Okay, Harold, you were inducted into the Army on October the 10th, 1942.
October the 10th, 1942.
Wow.
At Fort Bragg.
Cool.
And discharged September the 6th, 1944.
Wow.
Well, that's because the war was over. What other questions you got?
Did any female family members work outside the home?
What do you say?
Any female members in your family work outside the home? Verna taught school. Your sister taught school. Your mother did not work outside the home.
Did I what?
Female members of your family, Verna taught school.
Oh,
But your
female
mo-
mom.
your
Oh yeah,
mother
my
did
sister
not.
taught. She taught. She was a school teacher. She became principal of the school. She taught school for over 40 years.
Okay.
And I taught school for 1 year, and then we got drafted in the Army.
Okay.
And
Grandmother, did any female members work outside the home when you were?
Yes. All my adult family members except grandmother and granddaddy worked in the Greenwood Mills, a textile mill. And during the war, they switched over to making denim, I think, for uniforms.
Okay.
then they
Interesting.
get to.
And I briefly worked in the mill, not very long.
Cool.
Okay, let him ask the next
What's
question.
the next question?
What was the hardest thing to
Ration.
ration?
Hardest thing to what?
Ration.
What?
And, well, I worked in the, interestingly, I
What was
worked
the
in the
hardest thing to what?
ration,
Ration.
RASION. I guess it was would have been gas.
Gas was the hardest thing to ration?
Ration. I would say most people was gasoline. Back then they went and made everybody register, tell what kind of work they had, what they needed, and you got coupons. You couldn't buy gasoline. You had to. They would make coupons, and you'd have to go apply, and you'd be given a book full of coupons.
Mm-hmm.
And a coupon would buy you, one coupon buy you a gallon of gasoline. You had to turn that in to buy a gallon of gasoline. And so they would allot you, if you didn't do anything, you were just a housewife, they'd buy you enough to get to a grocery store once a week. If you were a traveling salesman, they gave you more coupons. So they gave you coupons to buy gas. You had to have a coupon. They rationed gasoline. They rationed sugar. They rationed
Butter.
automobile tires.
Butter. Butter was rationed. Butter. Butter. Butter.
Butter, yeah, they rationed butter.
Do you remember as a child noticing that you were having to be rationed?
Oh yeah. Well, like I say, by then I worked
So
in the company's store.
You had to be careful what you could, because if you didn't have enough coupons when you went to the store, in order to get these groceries, you had to have so many coupons to buy certain things.
Right.
And my granddaddy was a deputy sheriff, so somehow or other he could get extra gas.
Well, they always have a thing, you know, you can trade coupons and somebody didn't need one and somebody that seldom went driving and would get a certain coupon every week. Well, in a month's time, if they didn't have anywhere to go, they'd have coupons, and so they could give them or sometimes sell them to somebody else.
Right.
Well, Granddaddy could get extra coupons, and we had a friend who was an evangelist, a traveling evangelist, and he was always needing extra gas coupons.
Well,
and
that
he
was
would
one
call.
thing. See, if they figure if you were a doctor or something, you were going to be called out on emergency, they'd give you extra coupons. They said, well, I'm subject to be called out on emergency
Right,
most
right.
any time. Well, they'd give you an extra book of coupons.
Yeah.
then.
But anyway, this preacher would call him and tell Granddaddy he needed some coupons either for tires or gas, and he would come by grandmother and Granddaddy's, and he would give him some extra gas coupons.
What's your next question?
What do you miss most during the war?
When during the war,
What did I miss most?
what did you miss most? Did you miss
What
your
did I miss most?
family?
What I missed most was being at home.
Yeah.
I missed being home. And
Did you miss any kind of food?
Huh?
Did you miss any kind of food?
Any food, I don't think
anyway,
there was no real shortage of any kind of food. You don't remember missing any
any
kind
food.
of food?
Food. I don't remember having any problem with the food. They said I was young, 20 years old. I would eat most. I was like Mikey. I could eat most anything. They served you pretty good. I never did complain a lot about.
I remember evidently butter must have been really short because then we could, I guess it was something you could buy that was margarine, but it was white, and you could get some kind of little coloring. And I remember helping mother and grandmother mix that up with the coloring so it would look more like butter.
Oh wow. Wow.
And then they used the MRI. These meals.
Ready to eat.
What do they call them? MRI.
MREs, meals ready to eat.
Anyway, that was like eating
I never
sawdust.
had one of those.
That's kind of like you're supposed to be able, if you're out in the woods somewhere, you could mix it with some water and
Yeah.
put it and heat it up,
Well, they still have
and
those.
it would be enough, give you enough food. And
Okay, well,
last
but we
you for
didn't
day
really
two.
miss a whole
it
lot
was
of
like eating
anything.
sawdust, I think. But I never
Right.
did have to eat MRI.
Okay, what's your next question,
What's the next
sweetheart?
one?
This question is, did you or family buy bonds?
Bonds. Did you buy bonds? Yes, we
Did
bought
I buy
bonds.
bonds? E-bonds?
$25 bonds. Yeah.
I think I bought a few. I didn't really buy a whole lot, but I did buy some, yes.
What? Okay, next.
I mean, it was something you could buy for something
$18.75.
like $18. You bought a piece of paper, and you paid about $18 for it, and it was a $25 bond, but you had to hold it for 5 or 10 years, and when you could go to the bank and cash it in for $25,
Ah, okay.
and they called it e-bonds.
Yeah.
Okay, sweetheart.
What lessons did you
Wait.
learn?
You had some other ones under buy bonds. Did you and your family?
What is what?
Say, find fuel, watch news.
Wait,
reels.
wait. Okay. Save tinfoil. Did your family save tinfoil?
Tinfoil.
I don't remember even having tinfoil.
Tinfoil.
Oh yeah, the aluminum. They had aluminum for some reason or other. You collected.
I don't remember
aluminum. You had aluminum or something. I don't remember tinfoil, but I thought it was aluminum that you had to sell.
Okay.
So,
And then what was
That
the
you
other
had to save.
Watch newsreels about war at movies.
at the movies, yeah. Yeah, they
Oh,
would have
what was
at
that?
the
Lowell
preview,
Thomas.
the preview before the
On
regular
Saturday,
movie
you got a
would come on.
who was that? Lowell Thomas.
Lowell Thomas, I think, yeah. And they would bring you up to date on all the war news because we didn't have TV in those days.
All right. Next.
Donate blood.
Did you donate blood?
I didn't. Donate blood.
What?
Donate blood. Donate blood.
DONATEBLOOD. Donate blood.
Did you give blood? Did you give blood? Donate blood. Stick you with a needle and take your blood out.
Oh, when I did I draw blood?
Yep.
Did you donate blood?
Did I donate blood? Oh, did I donate blood is what you asked me, wasn't it? I think I might have donated blood once or twice. I didn't participate in the blood drive much. I was on active duty.
Yeah.
They had that for some people, but
Maybe the
Once
civilians
I
could do
gave
that.
Right, yeah.
I think I made one or two
I did.
blood contributions.
Okay,
but I
what's
was
your
on
next question, sweetheart?
I was on active duty most of the time until I.
Wait, no.
Is that all your questions?
Nope.
Learn new
Now,
recipes.
are you
Learn-
writing all that down?
She's, honey, she's
how you gonna make your
she's
report?
recording every word of it.
Huh?
She's
So-
recording every word of it.
Grandmother,
recording.
this might be good for you. Did your mother have to learn new recipes because of the war?
Probably, and in fact, Mother had what they used to call during a little victory garden.
That was one of the questions. Did you grow a victory
Yeah,
garden?
my mother did grow a victory garden, and I know before Meatless Tuesdays or Meatless Mondays became famous, we already had that. We didn't eat meat. At least 1 or 2 days a week, but I don't know if it was because of the war or not.
All right, next.
Donate rubber items.
Did you have to donate rubber items?
I don't remember that.
Donate one?
Rubber items.
I know it was ration. You couldn't get tires, and you had to get a
But I don't remember donating anything
coupon.
made
But
out
I
of
never
rubber.
did donate rubber. And,
All right, next question.
What lessons did you learn from the war?
Oh, mercy.
Oh, Lord.
What lessons did you learn from the war?
what message?
Lessons.
Lesson.
That there's no place like home.
Yeah.
You probably learned that there's no place like home.
What lessons did I learn from the war?
That we don't want war anymore.
I guess you need to be more aware of what is going on in the world around you, to keep abreast of what's happening in other countries and to become more knowledgeable about the other governments as well as your own.
Right.
How have the experiences during the war influenced your present way of life?
What do you say?
How has living during the time of war
How did what?
influenced, do you think it has influenced your way of life any at all since you had the experience of being in service? Well, he was also in the Navy,
Exactly.
but that was during the Korean War.
Right.
So that was a different war.
Well, I suppose it instilled a certain amount of discipline in you. I mean, once you get in the Army, well, you're molded into a group. You become part of a company. In a group, you learn, first of all, they put you out on the parade field. You learn how to march. You learn, and you all wear the same uniform. And you're molded into a fighting unit, and it's cooperation that you can do things collectively a lot more effectively than you can as an individual.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Learning to work together and
Well, and living in a tiny little place like 96, I guess the war made us realize how big the world really is, and there were some men who were drafted and never returned home, and
Oh.
homes and families were shattered and all that. And back in those days, you had to dial the operator for a long distance call and give the number. And the guys said they would tell the operator they wanted to call 96, and they would usually say, "And what number do you want to call?" Because they couldn't imagine a place named
Called
with
96.
a number.
Exactly.
See, I was amazed at how little news
Yeah,
the newspapers and magazines in the United States had carried about the war in Europe, that what Germany was doing in Poland and everything over there. You heard a little bit about it, but it wasn't carried extensively enough because the amount of the communication was slow in those days.
well, and toward the end of the war, I was in high school then, and my history teacher, our assignment was to read the paper every day and know where the American troops were in the line of duty and fighting, and where the war was. And that was one of the hardest things in the world for me. Well, first of all, a map of Europe was completely foreign to
Right,
me.
yes.
And I was supposed to find out where the troops were on that map and be able to point it out. So, anyway.
What's your next question, bud?
Do you remember where you were when President Roosevelt died?
I do. I was working in the drugstore.
What?
When President Roosevelt died, he was the only president I had known. He was elected, I think, in 32. I was born in 31. And he served 4-year terms, so, or more than that. Anyway. But I was actually working in the drugstore, and on the radio, the day they were taking his body back from Georgia, they played funeral music all day long, and I remember being so sad.
Yeah.
See, the strange thing about him, they protected him. I never did know until later on that he had polio, and they always showed a picture of him sitting down or standing, holding on to something, and I didn't realize he had polio and couldn't walk. They never did show a picture of him when he was active president.
But until the time of his death, he was the only president he was the only president I had known, and I just thought it was
That's right.
awful.
He's almost like the king.
Oh yeah.
You read about these people.
We loved President Roosevelt.
And I remember him. He came through Fayetteville.
Right, the train
The
came
train
through
came through Fayetteville that was going back to Washington.
Okay.
That's it, buddy.
Is that
No.
it?
One
Yeah.
more.
What?
Yeah, Granddad pretty much said what they remembered about him.
What?
Yeah.
His
That they
greatest
liked him.
He's the greatest president ever lived. Oh,
You did it.
What's the next question?
That's it, Granddad.
That's it.
You're free.